What's happening, everybody? Thank you for being here at All Access Live with Kevin Rankin. If you're here anywhere other than YouTube, do me a favor. Go to the link below. Go to youtube.com/@accesskevin and subscribe to the channel. Make sure that you like this video. And if you look through the archives, you're going to find over 285 other episodes with amazing individuals. Probably not as funny as the guys that I have today, but certainly compelling. I also want to thank my sponsors at 5-Star Guitars. If you go to 5starguitars.com and you're outside the Oregon area, but in the United States, you're going to find that there is no sales tax here in Oregon, and the link below will give you 15% off everything you see. So go to 5starguitars.com/allaccesslive, enter the promo code of allaccess15, and you're going to save 15% off everything you see. And again, no sales tax, so you'll get guitars and accessories. They've got lessons and repairs, lots of incredible pros that can give you lessons and hopefully take you on an opportunity like I just had to tour with my guests today. My guests are just outside Birmingham, England, and they were our tour manager and backline crew for the Flock of Seagulls tour that we just had in the UK. So I've got Jim Debarker and Doug Nissley. How you doing, gentlemen?
Hi.
Hey there.
Tour pros, Jim Debarker and Doug Nissley. That's how I'm labeling you. But I know that, Jim, you had a separate label besides backline tech for Doug. You had a different label for Doug Nissley, and it had something to do with what he was doing with the horses before we went live, right? So I should also preface this conversation by saying that Doug is here as the token American expat. He's here to translate for Jim Debarker, who just outside Birmingham, they found a way to fuse a human and a Sasquatch, and so this is what we have here today. So, yeah, and I love your background, Jim. That's much more professional than what you had up earlier just a minute ago with the
Wall of Cocks.
The Wall of Cocks, exactly. Yes. Now it's just a big pentagram. It looks like, so that's good. Yeah. And Doug, you've got it looks like a stuffed elephant in the backdrop there.
I'm not really sure what that is. That's just a stuffed bear I think my wife made.
Okay, it looks like it's seen terrible things.
It was just interesting that we keep finding a lot of stuffed animals around Doug Nissley, right? I think in Wales. Hey, Doug, you want to tell people what you got for your birthday in Wales?
Well, there was the cake.
Oh yeah, that's not
The cake that was shaped like a worm. A couple cards and stuff like that. You guys got me a card for a 3-year-old.
And I was thinking more about your buddy the sheep that we had back in the dressing room. Yeah,
we were in Aberdare, and y'all brought a sheep from the backstage area over. Stuff.
That was just it was just
before you got it.
Oh my God! I have to know how you guys started working together, man. I mean, this tour was incredibly fun because of you guys bringing the positivity and the joy. But tell me about how you guys first hooked up and how you started working together.
Well, Jim and I met through local crewing. So we worked a lot of the local kind of gigs as local crew. But we didn't work together that often, but we knew each other. We got to know each other a little bit. And then
doing the same kind of roles, like you as a backline tech and Jim as like a tour manager in front of the house?
We were local crew pushing boxes.
Oh, okay. Setting up PAs and all right.
And stuff, helping the touring crew not hurt themselves.
Gotcha. All right.
And that's how we kind of first met. Jim's eye got burned out by the pyro from one of the bands.
Iffy Pyro.
Yeah.
Iffy Pyro shot a firework into my eye.
Was that during the show, or was this like set up and you guys were testing?
No, it was an accident.
Completely accidental during the show. I think that was the first night Jim and I kind of sort of met. It was at Leeds Fest years ago.
That's also been dragged away to a hospital bed.
His eye recovered. He has vision in both eyes still.
Thank God. He didn't mention that before you were driving us around in the van, Jim.
They all like surprises.
Yeah, that's right. When you're doing crew and you guys just kind of got lumped together, you're throwing stuff around, and you realize that you had similar fascination with farm animals, and
I think it was think
We're
it was our
both cheap.
proximity to Bradford. Really, we kind of met. Like it was weird because like the local crewing thing, we didn't work together that often, but we kind of met. But it was through kind of other things and through the the online Facebook community we've got over here.
Kids here in the U.S., that's called Grindr. But anyway, so yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Boomers.
Well, I know you're
Your microphone's
Doug.
got it weird again.
Oh, is it okay? I think I just need to stop moving. How's that? Is that better?
No, it's really kind of.
The aliens are here. They're taking over.
No. Yeah. Well,
blink once if you're the real Kevin.
Yes. Maybe I need to. I'll talk less and ask more. So, Doug, you're an expat. You moved out from the U.S. Obviously, you're not a British citizen, British national. So what brought you over to the UK?
Geez, my sister moved over here in '96. I'd come visit her, then I'd start bringing whatever bands I was working with over, and we'd play shows. And so on tour, I met my wife, and a year later we got married. This was like 16 years ago. A year later, I moved over. We got married.
Right
so
on.
Here I am.
Did you meet her at a show?
Yeah, she was at the. It was a band I was in called the Cogburns out of Atlanta, Georgia. Our first show in the UK was the Cogburns. COGBURNS.
All right.
It's because the singer, when he first moved to Atlanta, he lived on Cogburn Avenue.
Yeah.
But we kind of think that maybe he was saying it wrong, and it might have been Coburn. But at any rate, we were in this band. We played over here. We met at a gig in Barnsley, which is kind of it's a mining town, so it's all working class, down in the pits kind of guys.
Well, how were you getting those gigs? Were you setting them up from over in Atlanta? Or did you have a booking agent, or did you just?
We got the gigs through MySpace. That's how.
Oh my God! Wow.
Basically, we're searching MySpace for bands that were similar. We said we're coming over, first week of December. Hook us up with a gig, and can we borrow your gear? So we just brought guitars and drumsticks.
And opened up for those bands, just
so
you know.
Yeah. Well, actually, I think we ended up being the main act, and they opened for us.
Okay.
But we were put on, various different bills, so it was a couple different things. We played this one place on like a Tuesday night. We walked in, the place was huge. We thought it was going to be horrible, but then it turns out, they were known for serving underage. So all the 16-year-olds from 3 neighboring villages took trains to get to this place. We were out in Chorley and played this little gig at a place called like Jack's Bar or Tom's Bar or something like that. And
so that's how you met your wife. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, but,
in the UK, it's different. I think the age of consent is different. I think.
Well, yeah, it's still 18 over here to drink.
Oh, it is. Okay.
3 days. 3 days later, he was getting his cock burned.
That's an interesting plan back there, Jim.
So that worked out pretty well for us. We got kind of the, back in Atlanta, everybody, all the musicians I respected were just like, oh, I wish we could do that. And I was like, you can. It's easy. Go on MySpace, meet bands, ask them to book a show for you. And then, go over. Just treat it like a working holiday instead of like, a proper tour.
Sure.
Don't expect to make any money. And you can do it. You can have the experience. Just, we could never make it work. I'm just like,
you still tell bands that? You still encourage bands to come over and do that kind of thing?
Yeah. Well, I tell anybody, if you have a chance to travel, do it.
Yeah.
It opens your mind in so many ways. And those experiences just, give you things that you don't get from staying at home.
That's true. The highs and the lows, right? But, Yep. And Jim, how did you get in biz?
Bad luck mainly. So in wrong place at the wrong time. I've always wanted to be working in music. I kind of first did a live show doing sound at 15 years old, and then hung around in bars, venues, things like that, and just kind of worked my way up the ladder really. So I've always been kind of involved in a peripheral way around music, around bands, around stuff. And then about 15 years ago, sort of took the plunge, went fully freelance. And then, just been moving from sort of place to place, upsetting people, tipping boxes over, making things louder.
Right.
Ever since.
Did you kind of hone your chops working on smaller bands, working your way up and getting up to big national acts?
Yeah, I mean, it's, I kind of followed the more traditional path, I guess, in, doing the crappy little dive bars and you turn it with one microphone that works and then a singer that didn't and things like that. And sort of gradually just being around. I think like how me and Doug met, doing the local crewing and things like that and kind of getting to know the big shows and then kind of thinking I could probably do that. And then, just looking for an opportunity really to get into the industry. And then when it came, taking advantage of that and going for it. And here I am now doing even less for more money.
Yeah, well, I mean, honestly, that's the ultimate goal, right? So you've made it, Jim. Nicely done. Between that and your your Bigfoot career, like your stand-in for Bigfoot movies.
I mean, you can't even see I'm naked from the waist down here and wearing gold slippers. So.
It's
one of the few perks available to me. I should say
that's a beautiful thing.
Although I look a bit like a crackhead at the minute. I've got a cold. It turns out that being in a van with you for 3 weeks has destroyed my immune system. So if you hear any grunting and snuffling noises, there are no other things going on below the desk.
That's being in a van with me and the band. I think I was thinking about some of the experiences we had. Is my mic all right? Is that better?
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I was thinking about some of my favorite experiences, and there was one day that we had almost a full day to ourselves when we were down in Brighton, and we trekked down to the end of the pier. And for folks maybe in the U.S. that are watching this that haven't been, but maybe have been to the Santa Monica Pier in L.A., this pier, it's amazing. They've got roller coasters and log rides and all sort of arcade vibe, and then food, for like we got our fish and chips on the dock, and we went on the roller coasters. Heard Jim squeal like a little girl, and
whiplash of that.
Yeah, I think that's what happened. It's not your immune system. I think right now your body's just shaking from the rickety old rusty ride. But man, I had such a good time with you guys out there. It was a really nice break. About 2/3 of the way through the tour, when we all needed a little bit of a little happy time.
Our one proper day off was like 3 days into the tour.
Right. Yeah. And that was
we had 2 weeks of like solid.
Is that how you guys typically do that when you guys are working with other touring bands? Are you guys doing primarily just like no days off and just trying to maximize as much of the financial opportunity that you can?
No, it's only idiots like you guys that do that. We have like 1 day off. No, I mean, some bands have more days off than others. It depends what level you're touring at, really. But it's all about, you can't have the crew sitting there being paid full paid, not doing anything and it financially work for any band. And especially if you're coming over from the US or somewhere, it's so expensive anyway.
Yeah,
that you just can't do it that way. So, but we normally do, especially on long tours. There's always days off here and there, and sort of walk around in your pants and I don't know, order food.
A day off every 7 to 8 days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Out of 7 or 8 days, you get 1 day off. I'm
currently
working with a band that's doing weekends, so I'm home. A lot.
Yeah. What do you do when you're home, man?
Don't ask.
Yeah.
Don't know.
Well,
let's not go there.
I spend all that money I'm earning on Amazon.
Oh, right. Yeah. It's like, well, don't. This is a YouTube channel. Don't get me canceled. All right. So.
I see. I didn't think you'd be able to pick up the legal fees that are involved in getting us on the podcast.
Yeah. All the sponsorship from 5 Star Guitars is not going to be able to help me out of that one, man.
No, but serves them right. They should be hosting outside of Oregon, shouldn't they?
Yeah, that's some people that aren't musicians or touring musicians, they might kind of think that we've got a little tour and you're just home counting your shekels, and I know that you guys work your ass off all the time. So do you have a separate job then when you're not out there touring? Do you have any kind of like side hustle to make money?
No, full time. I mean, when I'm not actually touring, I'm preparing other tours because
okay,
the job I have, I tried to get Unlike some bands who like to do things on the day, I try to get tours sort of, advanced and ready to go about 6 months in advance. So I'm kind of working on tours now that are happening next year, into March, February, March next year. I've got one big one about to go out. So I'm out for the whole of December, which I've nearly got finished. But just sorting out the travel for that now.
This is the perfect person to ask this, okay? Because a lot of people might not realize how much goes into a tour. And I know for me, I got a lot of friends that just think, oh, well, you just show up, you play the gig, and you're off to the next one where you're just partying and having a great time. If we were to put a camera on our day where where people can see how much time you're actually performing, or even any downtime, for you to prep a tour, to get a good sized like international tour, what sort of logistical things do you have to prepare to get something, and how far ahead do you do it?
I mean, like I said, I try to be about 6 months ahead. I mean, the tour I'm working on at the minute is got an overall income of £500,000, so about $600,000 or something like that. That's a big responsibility to make sure that the figures add up. When we're spending sort of those kind of figures, and it's not as easy. We've got 14 people to find hotels for, to move from place to place. We've got a truck or 2 trucks worth of stuff to, we've got to hire from different places, get into the correct place at the right time. And everything has to go perfectly. Nothing can go wrong, because if we don't show up for one night, then there's a £50,000 bill, or something like that. So, I'm very much meticulous. Have plan Bs for everything. Have escape routes for everything. If this flight is cancelled, how do we get people to show? How do we do that kind of stuff? And I'm meticulous in that. A lot of it is done on spreadsheets, just endless spreadsheets taking over my life. So when I actually get on the bus, or when I actually get on the tour, most of the work really has been done, and I'm just there to sort of babysit hugely grown toddlers to take around the place. But yeah, people don't understand the amount of preparation it will go into, these things, and the amount of money that is involved in a major tour, and it's getting harder because margins are being squeezed everywhere. So everybody needs everything cheaper. Fuel bills have gone through the roof. Hotel bills have doubled. But you've still, you've signed a deal 12 months ago to go to appear at those things. In the last 6 months, the prices have doubled. So then you've got to go revisit everything, make everything work. And, it's a kind of thankless task, and it's a point of blame for when everything goes wrong. But at the same time, it's very rewarding kind of when everything goes right. And you can get to the end of a tour and sort of look back and, make some great friendships and have some great experiences on the way around. So, I wouldn't change it for the world, but it is a lot more work than people realise.
Oh, so much, yeah. Doug, you've been on a good handful of tours too, man. You want to maybe give us a story or two about some of the tours that absolutely went off the rails and were just shit shows.
Well,
besides ours,
yeah. For the most part, there's stuff that goes right and there's stuff that goes wrong. You're always going to have something go wrong. And it's how you deal with that, which is really kind of what makes you capable of touring or not. I've worked with tour manager doing like their first tour, and they're realizing that maybe tour managing isn't the right fit for them. And you're sitting there like trying to calm them down as they're freaking out over something that went wrong, which is something that's just like, this is out of our control. We just do the best we can and live with it, but because the rest of the crew on that particular tour, all knew what the hell they were doing, showing up to the venue 3-4 hours late because, weather was a shitstorm, or because whoever's driving got back on the highway and went towards the old venue instead of the next venue, and it's like, we're going to be 3 hours late now, which means we have like 30 minutes to set up and line check.
Right.
So
you do some crisis management.
Yeah, exactly. And it's about staying calm under that pressure. If you can't, stay calm under that pressure and come up with, you either have to come up with the good backup plan off the cuff, or your experience has led you to a place where you know what to do, and it's basically do the best with what you got, whatever time you've got left,
Right.
You do the best, and you make some decisions about, okay, we're not going to take all the spare gear in because we don't have time to move all that extra crap,
Right.
and, being, you just have to be brutal sometimes with your decisions and make it work. The show must go on because there's a bunch of people out there that have paid a bunch of money to come see that band.
Right.
For some folks, a $20 or £20 ticket is a lot of money. For other folks, a
Heck yeah.
£20 ticket is nothing.
Right.
So you got to think about the guy that it's a big savings for him to come out to that show. You want the show to happen for him.
Yeah, man.
I
I think musicians, I think they take that for granted sometimes, right? They get so caught up in their own deal with the production of the day, and they don't realize that our job is there to entertain, right? And we're there for them. Those people are there to support, and it's important to remember who we're serving.
Yeah. Your mic is getting worse again.
All right. So how about you, Jim? Some shit show stories.
Hey, well, I was just about to agree with Doug then about there's kind of people who don't realise the big leap that it is between sort of being a sound engineer in this local venue or being a band in a local town and the leap up to touring and how different it is. And I think people don't get that sometimes, and they very quickly find out if it's for them or not. And you've got to have that attitude where ultimately the most important people are the audience, the people, the fans who are behind the band, they're buying the records, and they're kind of, they've got all these memories and dreams and everything attached to this music, and you need to be there for them. And if you've got an attitude where at the first hurdle you kind of like start flapping your arms and kind of go, oh, I can't do it and stuff like that, it's no good. It has to happen. It has to happen on time at that place. However it happens, you've got to find a way. And that's why, when you find people that you tour with and you get on with and you trust, like I do with Doug, that's why I ask him to come along on a lot of these shows, is because I know that he's not going to flap around and, sort of, with his knickers on fire, maybe. But,
after the show.
Yeah. So much of this circuit is word of mouth, and it's kind of, you prove yourself, and you've got a reputation that you really have to kind of nurture and look after. And ultimately that then makes the musicians perform better, because if they feel like they're in safe hands and they feel like everything's under control, they can just focus on what they need to be doing, which is playing the music.
Yeah.
And they don't want to be getting involved in, oh shit, there's no toilet paper in the, or something like that. They've got to get on with their stuff. So it's such a team effort on any tour. It is in a venue, it is in the smaller places too as well. But, on a tour, everyone has to work like clockwork. And some people aren't good out for it. Some people are, definitely.
Yeah. Have you seen bands that they might play like weekend warrior type stuff, but then when they get into a situation where they're touring, and it just absolutely, it's very apparent that they are not cut out to be a touring musician.
Yeah, but a lot of the times that can be masked by, if you've got a good touring crew, they can sort of fall off the way a bit, as long as they've got someone to like literally pick them up and go, right, here you go, on stage, and do all those things. So that's where the tour management really comes into it, and where you have a backline tech who you trust and who you know that you're going to walk up to your guitar or your drum set and it's set up how you want it to. You don't have to think about it. And then they can go off and go and get smashed and hang out with the fans and whatever they do.
Right.
So it's a two-way street, really.
You mentioned Doug being there to like change a string or get stuff set up. Doug, I mean, not only are you crisis manager, but also you're kind of MacGyver, right? Your whole kit, your rig setup was so incredible. Just fixing my piece of shit snare drum to a point where that thing, it saved the day. You saved the day many, many a time. But any times where you felt like, all right, I have to pull, I have to make water out of wine basically today. This is got to be a miracle.
I think one of the first on the road guitar repairs I ever had to do, and this was early on. It was kind of like the first band I ever toured with. So I was just there to kind of help set the gear up. I played on a couple songs every night. And we were doing this music festival down in Atlanta, Georgia, and the singer's guitar, his acoustic guitar wouldn't work. And that was, he played acoustic guitar. And his acoustic guitar wasn't working. And I was just like, I was like, well, let me take a look at it. You know, I've done some soldering and done guitar electronics and stuff for myself, looked after my own gear for years. So I look at it, and one of the in-house crew for the festival had a soldering iron, but he didn't have any solder. So I'm basically borrowing solder from an old joint to redo this thing that broken inside his guitar, you know, and I got it done like minutes before they were due to start sound check.
Oh my God. Wow.
You know, it's just one of those things. I was just like, you know, I just, you know, I don't know what else I would have done.
Sure.
But I was just like, well, the show has to go on and we got to make this work. And I know I can fix it. I just don't quite have everything I need. But my whole life was kind of like, you know, growing up, I was always like fixing my bicycle with the wrong tools and
yeah.
And just, you know,
out of necessity.
Yeah, out of necessity,
Yeah.
you know, you create different ways of doing stuff, or you realize different ways of doing stuff. And I was just like, you know, and I never really thought of that as being a skill so much. And then years later, as I've done more of this kind of thing, I was like, oh, I guess that is, you know, having been in bands since I was 16, 17, you know, I'm 53 now. That's a lot of years of looking after gear and fixing my own gear and fixing my bandmates' gear and just kind of looking after stuff. And it's just like, well, I guess I really do have, you know, the experience and the knowledge to do what I do.
Yeah, that, you know, it's funny because that might not necessarily translate well on a LinkedIn profile, but anybody that's out there, the word of mouth that would travel, you know,
from great on his OnlyFans.
Your OnlyFans must be making major money.
Oh, man.
You know what? I thought of you guys so much, man, when we were in the midst of our tour and the news was out about Taylor Swift's tour, her Eras tour, breaking $2 billion in profit. And the magnitude of a tour like that, you know, where they've got 50 trucks, you know, to bring that production, and like a dozen buses, you know, between crew and bands and you know, can you imagine, Jim, having to manage that many? That's too much. But would you want to? Is it something you take on?
Yeah, I mean, things on that scale, really, you've got a team of people, you know, handling different aspects. And, you know, even on the smaller scale stuff that I do, I've still got a team, you know. Some shows I'll have a production manager who handles all the technical aspects and the trucking for that. I'll have a transport manager. I'll have a travel agent booking all the things. So, you know, really at that scale, you cannot do it all alone. There's no way. You really have to rely. And again, that teamwork thing. And, you know, there's things on that scale are amazing to watch. You know, I've seen them going in and out of venues, and it's like a poetry of this kind of build and break that's going on. And, you know, it's in 5 hours and gone in 3.
Yeah, that's great.
You know, on the scale. I mean, but back in the sort of local crew days when I was working my way up, we used to work on productions of that size. Like we worked for Queen and for, you know, sort of big productions. Where there'll be 30 trucks or 40 trucks or something like that, and there'll be like 100 local crew. And, you know, that's why I always suggest to anyone who's interested in getting into touring to go out and do that local kind of chimping work. And, you know, in America, I guess it's quite unionized, and there's all the IATSE kind of stage hands and stuff like that. But it's by far the best way into touring as a professional. And I tend to not go for crew who haven't done that and who haven't kind of, you know, people who are straight out of college and then, you know, I've got a degree in sound engineering or something like that. There's no way I consider them for a tour because I haven't seen how it goes together. And what you learn on that big scale, you apply on the smaller stuff, and that's makes the better crew and it makes the better teams. So yeah, I always sort of, you know, say that to people: just go out and hang around at a local venue and just get involved. You know, it's like that's the way into touring as a musician or as a touring professional.
You mentioned that. Actually, I did a couple of local crew gigs back in college. I do remember working with Pearl Jam and Alice in Chains right when they were breaking, and I remember being so fascinated by, like, Pearl Jam had just signed their deal with Sony, and so they were still playing the local fairgrounds, you know, the Pig Barn and the fairgrounds, but the first video had started to take off. So they had one tech for all the equipment. The guy knew how to tune guitars, didn't know shit about drums, and he was also mixing monitors for him. And I remember him coming over as I was setting up, helping like stack, like subs and running with the one spotlight. I had a lighting director telling me what to do for the Raptors, but I would always try to work with the drummers on those local crew gigs. Ended up tuning up Dave Eversley's drum kit, and he had a much better snare drum than I did on this tour, by the way. And but I remember him coming over and asking the tech guy, like, dude, these sound great. And the tech guy's like, dude, I told you not to touch his drums, but thank you. It's the first time that the drums have been proper. And I thought, how, at that point, they had just signed this major record deal, and I couldn't believe that they only had one tech guy for the entire thing, And realizing now, when a lot of those bands, when they're first out, they're traveling in a van with the crew and the band, everybody's sort of piled together. You're lucky if you get a hotel room to yourself, right? You're doubling up. Budgets for meals and per diem are next to nothing, and it's really cool to see something like that where a band had just started off at the grassroots level, and then you see them becoming some of the biggest bands in the world. So have you guys done any work like that where you worked with a band that just was starting out, and then all of a sudden the next thing you see they're selling Wembley?
Doug?
I've not worked with anyone quite like that. Or where I've seen that kind of trajectory.
Yeah.
But, of course, on the local crew gigs, we have, we've worked with all sorts. Leeds Arena. I've put so many bands in and out of that place. And then, it's. I tell you what, I remember one time back in the 90s when I was back in North Carolina, and Starship came through and did a gig. Okay, so they came and played at the venue that I had done some work at. And they came in and they had crew there that set all their gear up, and then they were staying at a local hotel, so they arrived in a limo hours later for the show to start. Great, cool. I was like, oh, okay, Starship, they're pretty big. Of course, that's how they're going to roll.
Yeah.
The following year, they played at a slightly smaller venue around the corner, and they were loading all their own fucking gear in out of the back of a Dodge van. And I was just like, whoa.
Yeah. How the mighty could fall, right?
Budget just slightly different this year.
Right. Yeah. So 5 years from now, we're going to see Taylor loading her own gear, and the Taylor Swift is going to be like, she's going to be loading subs in the back of the truck.
Well, I don't think that's going to happen, but
I'll tell you, man, we play a lot with Starship, and one thing about Mickey Thomas, I think he's 73 or 74 right now. Dude has every bit of his range still, which blows my mind. It's crazy to me. He can still hit those notes. So even if the budgets are smaller, it's impressive when somebody's blessed with a gift that the larynx is still intact. That's a tough thing to watch for a lot of musicians. I mean, you can keep in shape physically, but a lot of singers, it's so tough once you get a certain age, right? Your range just naturally drops, and I feel for anybody that can't quite hit the notes. Hey, so I know my mic sounds like it's breaking up. One sec.
Funny, there was a sound engineer somewhere. Yeah, it's kind of
Hey, better?
I guess. Yeah, it kind of gets better, and it goes.
Yeah, I think it's actually that I'm not hardwired right now, and so my wireless connection is weak, and so the audio. Sorry about that.
Taking one for the team.
Yeah, man. Well, this is all about you guys, so hopefully people aren't going to listen to anything I say. But how about a gig that you're seeing right now that you think this is a perfect fit for us? This is something that the Jim and Doug show can go out and rock this thing.
I went for the lowest bidder.
Yeah. Well,
no, I mean,
do you go out and actually see bands?
Yeah, I mean, I always, especially at least once a year, I always pay to go to a concert to a band I want, because I kind of want to experience it from an audience perspective as well. like the
Yeah.
whole thing, and that kind of then dictates who I hire for security for events, or how I sort of approach the events that I put on. So I make sure that I kind of go as just a normal punter. Try and go see it when I can. Obviously, I watch a lot of bands, especially being a sound engineer. If you're doing kind of in-house stuff at a festival or something like that, you obviously hundreds of bands, but I always prefer to kind of work on the second stages, where you do have the more up and coming stuff coming in, not the big sort of headlining things. I'm quite lucky in that the artists that I mainly work with, they're all well established. They've been around a long time, and they were the stuff that I listened to when I was young. And I'm kind of now working with all these people that were all, I'm playing my record player back in the '90s and stuff. I do tend to work in a particular kind of niche of Britpop where it's kind of, I mean, never really made it big in America, but obviously over here it was huge. So there's a nice, comfortable kind of existence there, which with bands that I like and have got good music. But yeah, I do this job first and foremost because I love music. That's why I do it. I wouldn't put yourself through any of this otherwise. World of pain. So yeah, I'm a music fan first, and then a professional second.
How about you, Doug? Do you go out and see live music still quite a bit, Doug? If you're not working?
Yeah, I try to get out to some stuff. Sometimes a lot of it for me is date night tends to be, hey Vic, that's my wife.
Yes.
Vic, let's go see such and such a band, or do you want to go see this band? And she'll be like, okay, yeah, and occasionally I take her to see a band she's never heard of, and then for the next couple of
Your
days.
band.
You know what? That is kind of one of my side hustles. Is I'll go play gigs. But when I go play gigs, she doesn't come out to see me play.
Okay, yeah. Well, she's seen you enough.
To her instead of talking to, potential fans or people that are there who might, like what I'm doing.
But, I mean, you have to have a really understanding and patient partner, both of you guys, because your schedule is so mixed up. Missing birthdays and holidays and anniversaries. I mean, that is something that it's an unfortunate outcome of the territory, right? You said you've been married 15 years, Doug?
Yes. Yeah.
And how long have you been with Jules, Jim?
It's probably about 15 years.
Okay.
Well, we've known each other for that long, definitely, yeah.
And how many anniversaries have you each collectively missed?
All of them.
Yeah. Just because of gigs, right?
No, we never got married just so I don't have to bother worrying about things like that.
Yeah. Oh, and obviously she's cool with it, right? I mean, she understands that's part of the gig, and yeah.
Well, Jules has worked. She knows how an event works, and I sometimes get her into crew on things if I need to. She's a really great administrator, and she's really kind of full on, gets stuck in. So, she does work on events. She does a few festivals here without me sometimes as well.
Really?
So she kind of gets the lifestyle. She gets the how it all works, and I just try to make use of the time when I am home as best as possible. And then just it's so easy now. It's easier now than it ever was before to video call someone up, stay in touch while you're on the road.
Yeah.
And obviously you miss that connection, you miss those anniversaries and things like that. But it's kind of, she knew what she was getting into.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's a tough courting conversation, right? So if this thing's going to work, you got to understand there are going to be times where I'm not available, right? Like, same thing for you, Doug. I mean, you obviously, Vic met you on a gig of yours, so she understands the life of a touring musician, right?
Yeah, so she was kind of like, well, I met you on a gig, you're going to do music, you're going to be involved in music. But then she eventually, she went to school for costume. So she's a costumier. I mean, she currently works at the university, but she has worked in the wardrobe department with Avril Lavigne and with Pink and with Beyonce and some other stuff. And she's worked plays and pantomimes and stuff. But like if she's working out on a play or working on a TV show or a short film or something, she might be gone for a week.
Mm-hmm.
So she kind of understands that. It used to be I'd leave and she'd be like, now remember, you can, ring me up and stay in touch. And I was just like, we're horrible at keeping in touch with each other when we're away.
Yeah.
But then she'd go away and I'd be like, remember, you can always ring or stay in touch. And she's
Yeah.
bad at it as I am.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because the partner might think you're out just like filling your day full of stuff that is not them, not realizing that there really isn't much time during the day, right? To just, I can't think of a whole lot of time that I was just sitting around with nothing to do on any of the days that we were out,
Yeah, exactly. And, I think because my wife has done some stuff in the industry and, in the entertainment industry, broader, we both kind of understand that, days are busy and, we do, WhatsApp each other and, if I'm out for, more than 2 or 3 weeks, we'll arrange to, fly her out in the middle of when we have an off day, so we can spend some time together.
That's cool.
So it works out. You find ways to make it work.
Yeah, I mean, or you don't, right? And that is unfortunate. The unfortunate demise for a lot of musicians. They go through 5, 6 wives sometimes. It's tough. But international touring, like I know, Jim, you've done a ton of that, man, and stuff. You talked about some gigs in Africa and Asia, right? You've done. Tell us a little bit about some of those experiences.
I mean, I love traveling. I absolutely adore everything about it other than airports. And I hate flying. I'm a really bad flyer. But the chance you can get to meet these people around the world that you never normally get a chance to meet, and to walk around on street level in places, you can see pictures of stuff and you can drive through places. But, I tend to, if I'm on the bus, like in Europe or something like that, I try to get up early and go for a walk. Like with New Model Army, the band, me and the drummer will tend to get up like dead early and just go for a wander somewhere and go and explore the place a little bit. And so we do sort of. So we, I try to sort of do as much kind of exploring of places as I can when I'm there and take the opportunities, because you never know when you're going to get that opportunity again.
Right.
It could all be over tomorrow, and no more touring. Look at what happened with COVID,
Right.
There's a long time when we thought we'd never get back to normal. We'd never kind of end up back on the road again. And I got so bored at home and I got so fed up and I was like frustrated. I just wanted to get out and go and travel to places. And even if it's just around the UK, there's always new places you can find and new things to do. So you get some people who just kind of sit there and be like, oh God, another venue, and they won't go out. But then if you just, take 10 minutes, just go for a walk in the local neighborhood, you're going to find something or someone, you're going to do. And otherwise, what's the point in putting yourself through all that travel and not see the place at the end?
Right. Yeah. Doug, you're really good about that too. I know that there were a lot of times where you'd get up and just go for a walkabout, go find a place to eat that was kind of off the beaten path and get away from the venues or get away from the hotel. It's cool.
Some of that, because you guys were over from the States and I knew how it was when I'd come over from the States, I wanted to see stuff, so that's, part of the reason why, I kind of dragged y'all into the middle of Chester, to see that. And
I loved it.
Of course, it's just like, we've just passed 10 places we could have eaten.
all of which were McDonald's.
McDonald's and kebabs was kind of like the.
That's it.
Right.
Yeah, man. Greg's sausage rolls, man. I honestly, somebody I just talked to said, "Isn't everything that they serve for food over there beige?" And I realized, yes, it is. That everything was brown and gray, but
gray, dour, and miserable, just like the British spirit.
Great marketing material for those restaurants and their marketing materials. They just have to call up Jim and get dour and miserable. You guys still eat and like those sausage rolls. I don't know how you do it, man. I had 2 and I never have to eat them again. I'm done. It's like I did my time.
Yeah, it's like motorway crack though. It's normally the only thing that's open on the motorway.
That's true. That's true.
Force yourself. Forcing down,
Well, Plus, depending on what phone plan you have, you can probably get a couple free each week.
Oh, really? They have a partnership. You get free sausage rolls.
Yeah. One of the phone providers, like any weekend day, you can get a free sausage roll.
God, it's hard to perform after that, man. It just your arteries are clogged and you can't breathe.
Never look at free sausage roll in the mouth.
Oh man, I think I told you I'm going to be coming over in a couple of months. That band that played with us in Bristol.
Yeah.
I'm going to come over and do a show with those guys down at the Fleece. And so, if you're anywhere, around, I mean, I'm just going to be there for a rehearsal day and a show. But I really hope that we get an opportunity to work together again. And if nothing else,
Well, hey, make sure we know about it, and we'll see if it fits the schedule.
Yeah.
It's good, man. I miss the hell out of you. You really you made that tour exciting and fun, and the parts that could have been really difficult were made much easier for both of you. And so
I sometimes wonder, how or why. Like I guess I know why bands would tour without crew. Because budgetary limitations. But it's kind of like, once you experience having crew that do a decent job, and it if they can take a lot of stuff off your plate so that you can kind of enjoy your trip better.
Oh, everything about it.
I always fight for that,
I mean, the not only the experience of the trip, but I mean, having a very competent front of house, and somebody that can make not just logistics, but also the sound and experience for the bands better. Yeah, there were no negative points to having the Debarker, Nissley, the contingent.
We've got very soft hands.
The Your mic just hit that perfect just then.
Oh God, nice. Oh, man. Well, listen. If people want to get in touch with you guys, what's the best way to find Doug Nissley's performance and archives of your music?
Just send me over 20,000. Oh no, sorry. So Doug.
You can get on my Facebook page. I've got stuff up on. I've got a band. My band is called the Heavy Machines, but quite honestly, it's. I find myself doing way more touring work, as a backline tech or guitar, drums, keys, whatever. That I don't really get to play as much as maybe I'd like to, but I enjoy what I'm doing, so I don't really miss it that much because I'm still around.
Yeah,
I'm still around the show, as it were.
You've got a good collection of good material out there for sure, man. You got a good voice and you're a good songwriter. So yeah, people should definitely look for you. You said the Heavy Machines.
If they Google the Alabama Hot Pockets, then,
you don't want to Google that.
Start with Urban Dictionary. Oh my God, you guys! I missed that audio. Well, Jim Debarker, Doug Nissley, thank you guys so much for hanging. And let's just make sure that we do this again. Do this in person. We'll put together a proper tour. And you guys bring sausage rolls, drummer.
Right on.
All right, you guys. Thanks, man, so much. Have a beautiful week, guys.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.